Hi everyone. I made a short film. It's titled The Wedding Without Witnesses because it is very deep. The whole tragedy happened when nobody was there to question John. The wedding without witnesses sounds mysterious, emotional, and it connects directly to the mistake Grace made by refusing the church marriage process.
Sister Grace, till now you are keeping malice at the head pastor. Is this
I've not
church?
been able to forgive him because he scolded me publicly 2 years ago.
It happened that this young woman named Grace was a choir member in her church. She loved God and served faithfully. But she had one problem. She struggles to forgive.
This is the
2 years earlier, the head pastor corrected her publicly for always coming to church late, for keeping malice with some people. Instead of accepting the correction, Grace became offended. She stopped speaking to the pastor and carried the bitterness in her heart. Not long after, a man named John started attending church regularly. He appeared so humble, quiet, and devoted. With time, he grew close to Grace and eventually confessed that he was in love with her. John told Grace a painful story. Guess what the story was? He said both his parents died in a motor accident. He said he had no family, no friends, and no one in the world to relate with. Grace believed him because Grace herself had no family left. She felt they understood each other's loneliness. Soon they started planning to marry, but there was a problem. In the church, couples who want to marry must pass through the marriage committee and undergo counseling for 6 months. Because Grace was still angry with the head pastor, she refused to follow the process. She said to herself that she wouldn't get married telling anyone in the church. I will not involve them, she said. Even when the youth pastor heard that Grace planned to marry in a court within 2 days and called her for a discussion, she refused to listen. When he asked why she had not settled her misunderstanding with the head pastor, guess what she said? Grace replied she could never forgive him for correcting her 2 years earlier. So, blinded by anger, Grace went ahead and married John quietly in a court wedding. Guess what? No family member, no church members, no witnesses, just 2 of them and the witnesses she borrowed and paid in the court. On the wedding night, as he sat in the living room, John suddenly asked, Grace, why didn't anyone attend our wedding? It was shocking. Grace became confused. She reminded him that he was the one who insisted nobody should be invited. John brushed it aside and asked her to come to the bedroom. He wanted to do something, but Grace felt something was wrong. Oh, thank goodness, thank goodness. Just then, there was a loud knock on the door. Grace asked John if he was expecting anyone. John said no. When the door was opened, a woman rushed inside with 2 children and shouted. What were you expecting to hear?
John, who is this woman and these children
so
barging
this is
into
where
our
you
home?
are.
We can settle this.
This
I am
woman
his
turned
legal
to
wife.
Grace and said, this man you wedded with few hours ago is my husband and these are his children. Grace stood there in shock. She turned to John and asked, why did you deceive me? You told me you had no family. Guess what John said? He replied calmly, I didn't deceive you. I only wanted, he said, I didn't deceive you. I simply wanted 2 wives in my life. That moment changed everything. But in all these things, this brings us to James chapter 4, verse 7. Excuse me. It talks about submitting to those who are in authority. Submit yourselves therefore to God. Ephesians chapter 5 verse 21 to 22 talks about mutual submission. And wives, submit to your husbands. And 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 5 to 6 says we should be humble. James chapter 4 verse 7 talks about submission to God. Submit yourselves to one another, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Sister Grace refused to submit to the pastor and to the authority. Submit yourselves to one another in the fear of God. Ephesians 5:21. Grace didn't submit to anybody in the church. Wives, submit to your husband, unto your own husband, as unto the Lord. You get that in Ephesians 5:22. You have to submit to authority over you. You younger ones, submit yourselves unto the elders. Yes, all of us have to submit to one another, those who are in authority over us, in accordance to the will of God concerning us. Read 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 5. There's submission when it comes to leadership. Those who are ruling over us, those who are in authority, who are pastors, our fathers, our mothers, get that in Hebrew 13:7, so that you won't think we are just talking. The governing authorities, let every soul be subject unto the powers. For there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Romans 13 verse 1. This talks about those who are in authority, like in the church. In the church, you have to obey those who are in the church that are leaders. As long as they are teaching you, advising you based on the scripture, based on the path of Christ, you have to be obedient to them. Submission is viewed as a deliberate total act of obedience to God rather than merely following rules. It is about strength, not weakness. It is considered a form of strength, providing protection and peace. I was happy that even though Sister Grace was having the problem of unforgiveness and bitterness that led to her mistakenly marrying Mr. John, her spirit or gift of discernment came alive immediately when Mr. John requested that she should go with him
John,
to the bedroom
something is not
because
right.
it's their wedding night. Who knows what could have happened there? Maybe he could have defied her before the legal wife final arrival. Although in the next scene, it shows that Grace was running down the road. She's no longer wearing her wedding gown. She has changed into ordinary clothes and running broken, confused, and lost. No one knows where she is running to. And that is where the story ends. Sometimes our greatest danger is not the enemy outside, but the bitterness we refuse to release inside our hearts. Unforgiveness can push us into decisions that change our lives forever. What do you think Grace should have done differently? I have to drop this video tomorrow morning, 14th February 2026, right here. So please make sure that ruling and controlling your environment based